Well, it's time for another video. And actually, like, as I was setting up the Gorilla Pod GoPro arm that holds the phone up, Miss Pace showed up. Yeah, very enthusiastically. So, we might have to deal with this. But we're finally dealing with that pile right there. Yeah, Pace. You not sit right where I'm gonna do things? Go over here. Nothing over here? Yeah, look at that. Oh, you cat butt now. Alright. So, this is what we're taking a look at today. And you might be like, what's this? It's all my Knipex. We also got Kitten. This. And this. And what are these? These are, well, the reason why I'm upgrading the Knipex Extend. These are actually the inserts that they come stock with Knipex Extend. I got 10 yellow ones. Yellow is my color. I can brand it as mine. I can also write on the inside Elliot. They leave a spot. I can show you guys that as a reminder. And then here are the tethered. So normally, if you need a tethered tool, like say you're going to be using a lift, and you're required to have a tethered tool up where you're working, so it doesn't fall and like thwack people. Knipex would have had a dedicated tethered tool, or most brands would actually have dedicated tethered tools, which would limit the amount of tools you could have because they're not going to make them all tetherable. However, now with Knipex Extend, you just buy these dudes right here, and it makes it into a tethered tool. It can fall, what does it say, like 12 feet or something? I don't remember. You'd have to look it up, but it's like, I think it's certified, like, because they sell tethers as well. You don't have to use those. Yeah, max 13 pounds, 4.9 feet. There you go. So, and I know they have ones from like 18 inches on up or something like that, maybe even shorter. But so what they're saying is, as long as your tool is, less than 13 pounds and at 13 pounds, this will hold up and not fall out, and your tool will not drop as long as it's not falling more than 4.9 feet. I just bought those because I do have some of these tools that I might want to put like a lanyard on or a wrist strap on. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to need a tether per se, because I don't, at most, it'd be like in the garage I'm working on stuff, and then, I mean, like, it's just me. I will have to tell me not to stand below me. Yeah, so like I'm working in a workplace where we're gonna have people up high working along with people down low, etc. But I might toss some of those on. And then my tools. The other way that you can use these is, because there's so many different colors, is you could color coat your tools. So say if you have like a common set of Knipex tools that are used for all your processes. We use something very similar when doing AASP Apple repairs. The screwdrivers were actually colored for the different torque levels, because you'd have mini torque wrenches that are like precision screwdrivers, but they're also to a specific torque. And those were color coded. So you might do the same thing with pliers from Knipex. If you have different steps, like where it would be like, use the red pliers to strip wire A, use the blue pliers to strip wire B. You know, you can simplify it that way, set up every toolkit the same. And then you're not like wrapping tape around stuff or painting stuff or whatever. You put these little inserts in there. I don't know that I'll ever need to do that. For me, I'll probably just stick a single yellow one in each one, just to signify their mind, and then leave the other one in for putting these in. You can kind of demonstrate that at some point. So we got this big old stack of these. I was sick. I prioritized other things coming in, basically. And just didn't get around to opening stuff. So these should all be, well, minus this guy right there, Nip Extend. Because I had some Knipex that was available in Menards locally, which is kind of like the lower end Knipex with I don't want to say that the standard grip or the molded or the dipped grip is lower end, because it's not. That's a preference, but the I don't want to say lower end tools, but like the more consumer oriented, more common models that were available in more like retail places generally use the shiny red. I don't even have one, but like more of this dipped, like a shiny finish. Whereas like when I ordered my Knipex TwinGrips and Cobras, those tend to have a textured dipped grip. Everybody kind of made a big deal when Matco got their own branded Knipex and were green. But some people didn't like it because they were shiny. They were shiny green. First one we'll take a look at is this guy. That one comes out of, I believe, the UK, off of eBay. We don't, like, this is a current model that is made. We don't seem to have it in the US. And this is just their standard wire cutter. Knipex, made in Germany. This is kind of the smaller cutter. This isn't what you use for like Romex. That's the other, like the 200 mil. This is a 160 mil, which is, what's this, like a 6-inch equivalent, I bet. The other one's probably like an 8-inch equivalent. Well, like 250 is the 10-inch. Yep. So, pretty standard. These are designed, you know, snippy snip this way. So these don't, like, unlike some of them, you can really use them either way. Like if you need to snip this way, the grip isn't directional in any way. You're like, those look really familiar. Yes, I actually have turns out the limited edition pair, the WeForge winners, like the white pair, those were actually Nip Extend before Nip Extend was like out, which is odd and surprising. So yes, I actually have 2 of these because I have the limited edition version of these. Limited edition may or may not stay in the toolbox. This is another one of those. It may go into the garage or up into the office or maybe in here. Probably don't need it in here because I'm pretty close to the actual toolbox. But just to have a similar tool in another spot. I do like their limited edition ones they have out, and they're not really any more expensive. I just had no idea that that was a Nip Extended. Oh geez, these are like flying everywhere. All right. So for example, zoom on in 2x here. Just take this guy. I want on the top. Traditionally, that's the way you'd hold this. So pop it in here. Oh, that's really tight. Oh, that's really tight. There you go. So that's how that looks. And you can see why you might want 2 of them. If you're purposely color coding. Yeah. In my case, I plan on doing yellow, and then they give you this area on both sides of the grip to, you know, if you want to write your name or whatever you're doing, so that they're like, you're not trying to write in like a weird spot. They're just giving you a dedicated place to do it. If you want this to go out, there's a little nub here. Push on that, it comes out. Let's give the pieces are really cheap. These are 2. I want to say under $10 for 10 of them. You can otherwise buy, like if you want to try out or figure out what color you want, or maybe you only need one color. They have a pack of the colored ones that has like 1 or 2 of each color. Here is the tether. For this one we pushed in this way, like that, right? The tether, you're going to do the opposite, and you're actually going to push it in this away. It's also tight. Makes sense. There you go. So you got your little tether. That way, you can put a tether on it and it won't fall if you drop it. Or if you just want like a little bit of lanyard hanging off of it as a way to grab it or whatever. To be truthful, this is how, between these two, is probably how I will be running a lot of my tools. Exactly like this. I will say, first time getting that in and out, it is tight. So that's the 7002 160. I believe that's the same one as the WeForge Winners Limited Edition. So if you already have that guy, and you don't mind using your limited edition one all the time, or getting that white dirty, no point in picking this one up. But otherwise, I just did that one because we didn't have a box. So the next one we're gonna do is this guy, because it broke out of its box on its way here. Right there, we got the 8002 260. You can probably read what it is. It's the TwinGrip slip joint. The Knipex TwinGrips are one of my favorite. Actually, I wouldn't even say one of my favorite. They are my favorite pliers that I own from Knipex. People, everybody always like the Cobra. Cobra is not a bad one, but for me, the TwinGrips were like the one, because you can't pinch yourself. This was added on the. I know it was added on the Cobras because it's a dual-sided to a single-sided. And what are these 8202 250s? Well, the 250, that means it's a 10-inch TwinGrip. In hand, for me, this feels like a big plier. I better be doing big things to get this pliers out. What is a TwinGrip, for those wondering? Well, for those of you that have a slip joint pliers, normally there'd be 2 spots, and you'd go like, and then it would get wider, and then you go, and you get, so instead of being flush, you'd get a little bit of a gap here, like that. So that is what these are. What the TwinGrips are from Knipex is they have reinvented the slip joint, which is just your kind of like your bog standard pliers, except it has the same teeth setup in there as the Cobra, which means they're opposing. So like once you get it locked on, you should really only need to push down and knock over your camera. But why do I like the TwinGrips? Well, here, this is why. If you look at the top, there is specifically a round opening. Also, I wanted a good pair of slip joints. And at least from what I found, like going into your standard harbor stores, your standard hardware stores, like your Home Depots, we got Fleet Farm, Menards. I did not check Harbor Freight, but like to find a quality slip joint is kind of hard. And you're like, well, yeah, it's because like, why would you want one? You just use like a Cobra or something. Well, those are like 45-degree or right angle. I often, if I'm holding something, want to hold it straight out like this, or if I'm pulling something out or whatever. Like, they're like, oh, use a linesman. Well, you can't make a linesman that wide, can you? That's why I said, like, I have just found so many uses. Like, if I need a pliers and it's not some sort of needle nose, the first thing I grab are my normal 8-inch TwinGrip. What makes them TwinGrip? Well, you got your normal grip here, like your Cobra, right? Like that's your Cobra, effectively. Let's take a look at the picture here. Let's do a 2x. Yeah. Look at your picture, Cobra. Yep, it's pretty much the same. The second grip, though, is right here. And if you look at the teeth up at the tip, they go the opposite direction. Why is that important? Because you can grab round things like a screw, and say if you strip the head off your screw or something like that, or you need to grab it and turn it, or you need to hold it and undo something on the other end and not have it spin, these teeth here that are going the opposite direction are super, 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 super handy. I've also used it to hold like screws I need to cut off or modify, or I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. For me, at least, the first pliers I grab, or in the past have grabbed, is just a slip joint, because you got two options. It's very versatile. But a lot of the ones that I had a lot of like I wanted a little bit of a longer one. I forget where I got it, but like the handle actually has, when you grip it, it actually flexes. Like you can feel it flex, and I'm just like, that is not quality. Surely somebody has like reinvented the slip joint, and it does turn out that Snap-on kind of has ones that do 3 slip joint spots, like 1, 2, 3. I think maybe even 4 now. Harbor Freight may have knocked that off with their Icon line, because a lot of the Icon pliers look awfully close to the Snap-ons. They show that Snap-on trick where you can pick up, I think it's like a dime with it. To be truthful, those are super interesting to me. I held in my hand the Icon flush cutters, like they're like this size, but they're flush cut. Oh, those felt actually pretty quality. The handles on the Icons are direct knockoffs of the Snap-on pliers. Like I said, what the big thing here is, though, is that these are the 10-inch versions. So if you guys saw the TwinGrips or you liked them and you're like, yeah, but they're not big enough, I only work on trucks. Here you go, 10-inch. I do not know personally how much these, because even just the front of this, you can feel that these are so much beefier. I will say, so for how much longer they are, you know, because it's an 8 to a 10-inch, this part does not feel that much wider. And that is another thing, is that they're so slim that you can get them in places that you couldn't get a traditional pliers. Let me grab my OGs 1 second here. Alright, so to be truthful, these are so big, they make these feel dainty by comparison. That is actually somewhat what I like about them, is they're not these big old massive pliers. I don't know why the phone wants to keep falling today and undoing itself. So these are the standard. Holding these in the hand, and these have the original style dipped grip that's like sort of like a textured finish. I did grab, because they're in the drawer, these are the ones I got from Menards. I did show that when I bought the wire cutters, they were actually the exact same ones, the original wire cutters that came out with the Knipex Extend. The 8-inch ones were actually the exact same model as what I picked up at Menards. These will probably go out because I have a wire cutter, a needle nose, and this linesman pliers, as well as like a smaller, it's like a electrician's pliers. It's got some like I think it's 10, 12, 14 gauge wire cutter with about a bit of needle nose on it. Those will probably all go out into the garage, just so we've got some tools out there that I can just grab without coming in. But this has this, like, the cheaper, I say cheaper, because like, if you look at the, like, proper Knipex lineman pliers, they actually, like, this is more of a traditional linesman, like, sort of head grip on here. If you look at their, like their true linesman pliers, they're considerably longer. You know, they're the 10-inch ones, like this guy. They're the 250 or 225 or whatever. So it'd be a 9-inch if it's 225. And they have this sort of textured grip on it. This is my, like I said, look at how skinny this is. That's the first pliers I grab. You can even see here where there's all this wear on it, where I've nicked it with other stuff. There you go too. See, it's just been super useful. The actual teeth have almost no wear on them, despite really giving them a run. Like, look at that. Most things I grab are not going to be wider than that. And it's got these very small steps you can do. This is one of my favorite pliers. They you know, these are very popular. So basically they expanded the line, and I can see why. Like, these almost feel dainty in the hand. Now that is why I tend to like the 6-inch wire cutter, like this guy, not big enough for me. DeWalt makes a 7-inch. Perfect size. Love that wire cutter. But that slightly smaller size, a lot of the time, you know, like I said, this thing feels not unwieldy, but it is this is a pliers. You know, everything on here has been scaled up. They have not yet made the TwinGrip or the standard TwinGrip in the nip extend, so you won't be seeing that today. So this guy's just gonna be part of my collection until they do that. The reason why this is not available in nip extend is because it is currently available with the comfort grip. So until they sell out, or until, like, the distributors buy out, you know, the market is basically full of the old comfort grips, they are not going to put nip extend out, right? But then you'll see a lot of new tools just come straight to nip extend, because nip extend replaces their old comfort grip. I can see some people still wanting this sort of grip. Depending on the tool, I could see it, like, with especially the smaller tools, like you might see coming up here. I could see wanting this smaller in-hand grip. I will say, like, for this wire cutter, that it, especially on the like, what is it, the Dash 200 one, that feels so good in the hand. For something like this, you almost need it, because if you're going to be applying enough force to this, it just fills out, especially that width. I did not like Knipex's old comfort grip, right? There is a video, if you go back, where they accidentally sent me for the 200 size wire cutter the old comfort grip, despite it being listed as a nip extend. And basically what Knipex figured out with this is that they made this much more flat, whereas on the old comfort grip, it was much more bulbous. It also didn't have this more gummy grip part for up here, like where you actually grip it with, like, your ring finger and your thumb. This part is very similar, but I would argue it's grippier, but the profile. Even handed it to my mom, surprisingly. Like, she does stuff with us around the house, and she even noticed in hand, like, it's just a different feel, right? Like the profile is different. That is why I never liked Knipex's comfort grip. Now the nip extend, I like, once they showed it off, and they're like, yep, we're gonna re-release, or we're gonna not re-release, but we're going to eventually release all of our tools in this. All of our tools going forward will have this. And you know, it's got all these benefits. I was like, yep, because I had really only for those wondering, the only Knipex tools that I have, I bought a three set at Menards of this guy, the linesman pliers, which actually has not seen, there's some use on it, but compared to the wire cutter and the needle nose, I've used the crap out of the needle nose. I like, because I had a old Crescent set, and those actually got handed down to my mom, because they do technically still work, but man, the teeth are worn off. They're, in some cases, they're missing. The wire cutter and the wire cutting parts on it are like not sharp anymore, so you really got to work at it. And she's always worried about ruining tools, so if you give her any worn out tools, she doesn't have to worry about that. And I tell her, like, hey, if you could just like not like have half decent ones, or use these, and they have a warranty, so we just warranty them if something happens to them. You know, like that sort of stuff. She's like, oh, I don't use your tools. It's like, all right, fine, you know. And for her, like, oh, how do you wear out tools? Like, do you wear out that quick? Well, I had those back in high school. Like, I got those, I want to say, end of my high school, because that's kind of when I started getting into the maker stuff and doing stuff around the house, and they were nice. Like, they were the ones that had like the spring action. But Crescent got bought out by I forget who, and then DeWalt came out with the same action. Because I really like having ones that return. And currently, I don't believe there are any Knipexes that have the spring return, at least with the Knip Extend. There are some of the, I think we have like flush cuts like this size that you can option into having the spring return. But I really do like having the spring return where the thing pops open. Not for a TwinGrip, because you actually want to push it down to have it grip on, or a Cobra. But the for stuff, you know, like your needle nose, your wire cutters, actually even these guys, because for the most part, if you're twisting wires, you're holding it and you're like going like that, with it closed, but you can hold it closed. A little bit annoying, I would thinking about now, a little bit annoying with the linesman pliers, but the wire cutters, like to go snip snip snip, actually super liked it. Also, with like how those work, that spring mechanism, you actually got more leverage somehow with it. And the needle nose were actually kind of nice too, because you could manipulate them, because it would push back a little bit, right? Like I said, I was happy with those for the longest time. Oh, I remember what was happening with some of the like the linesman pliers too, is because there were like all these hinges on it to do the spring mechanism, and because it would kind of like go out more, so you get more leverage, right? Well, you could hold it like this tight and wiggle the top left and right. And well, it turns out, because I'll often otherwise use linesman pliers to hold like maybe not sheet metal, but you know, it's got a square end on it. You can get some very straight bends on stuff, you know, stuff like that. Well, when you can hold it tight on something and move the head, because it'd be right here, there'd be like a hinge. That became not very useful. And then that's when I was like hemming and hawing about what to get. And then we had a project around here, and I just needed something, and I just bought like the base. You know, like Menards has Knipex, but they don't have a lot. So I just kind of like bought what was there. Turned out I really like the needle nose. My mom does too. She always steals that one. She's like, oh yeah, that one's really nice, because it's got a really long tip on it. Yeah, these more mainstream ones have this shiny, that versus the, I don't want to call them like more professional tools, but at least like Cobras, TwinGrips, stuff like that have this like more textured, and the texture does get a little dirty. These have been cleaned, you know, quite often, but they still have some shmoo, especially here, like right there on these. But you know, if you need a pair of pliers like this, highly recommend the TwinGrips. Like I said, these are my go-to. If I need to pliers something, this is the first pliers that gets grabbed. Slip joint was what I was going to say there as well. Like if you want like a nicer slip joint, like say you've been using the same old slip joint that like where it's got the rivet that goes through, it doesn't even have like a screw you can tighten. And like you're like, oh, there's got to be something better than that. You know, this or the Snap-on Icon offerings if you want more of the classic like slip joint action rather than the like the push button with the notches similar to a Cobra. But I regularly use this thing this far out to hold stuff. And because you got these teeth, you can hold round things that thick. Or hold an edge the edge way. Not flat this way, but the edge way with something like this. It's just super duper useful. Didn't know, like, I shouldn't say I didn't know. Like, I didn't know they existed. Didn't know I wanted them. Found them on watching a tool truck video, and I'm like, oh, that actually looks really cool. And then somebody else mentioned like, yeah, it's their version of the slip joint, and I'm like, that's what I've been looking for, you know. And here's the other thing with the twin grips that they do. And you can see it here. It was harder to show off with the massive 10-inch, because those might not look slim. But by comparison, here's a twin grip. And here is a linesman pliers. The twin grip, if you look at like the neck of the pliers, like you can get this to open up and not be wider. Like, okay, so there we're finally getting wider than, or as wide as the linesman, and we're open on the end. Right? So you can get it into something that only has, like, that's the thickest part right there. Right, is the joint. Right? And you can get it open and actually grab stuff in there because of where, like, how it dips in and how the hinge is done. Where, obviously, if you go wider, like I said, the actual head is the limiting factor. But especially down here, like you can get this fairly wide open to grab something without being even as wide as like a linesman plier closed. At the part you're jamming in there, you know. So thinking this at the same way, just longer, more basically. Oh, this will probably be the next one here. Let's get Bob the box cutter out. These tool trick videos have been bad though, because I did also pick up, I finally got this on Black Friday. This is a Streamlight wedge. But it's specifically the purple one. This one, Amazon ships and sells this on Amazon. But it fluctuates anywhere from, I want to say $150 down to $90. Right? Often it's between 95 and 110 bucks, right? And I just have never pulled the trigger, because I every time I'm like, I might pull the trigger on it. Every time I do that, it's back up, and I know it's gonna go back down. Well, for Black Friday, it dropped to 80 bucks or 81.67 or something like that. And I specifically want, like, you can get some of the other colors. I think that price normally, or 90 bucks normally. Gertrude has showed up, the granny kitty. Gertrude, yeah. But I specifically saw this purple color when they came out with it. And I was like enamored with it. Like it just, the finish on it, it's bright, beautiful. You're not going, I mean, unless somebody steals it, you're not going to lose this thing. These are designed to be like the reason why they have the wedge shape is if you look at, it's quite thin. So they're designed to be about the size of a pocket knife. Now, I'll admit my Maverick is a bit thinner, but it's like an EDC pocket knife. I've seen pocket knives easily this thick. I wouldn't even call it pocket knife. Maybe just like a knife or a folding knife or something like that. They also have the ones that are like the one of the brands has one that's like it's like switch operated. It's like a I've seen one of the tool trucks carry those. This is probably exactly the size of that. But with this thinner, longer shape, a little bit wider too. You know, it's not that cylindrical 18650 size. It can really, like, basically you can put it in your pocket and it slips in as an everyday carry much easier. It's got a deep carry pocket clip. If it's on your side and you roll over when you're under a car or something, it's not going to jab into you because it's this big thing sticking out. It's just a slim little flashlight. I think it's what is it, 600 and then 1,000 lumens according to the packaging. Constant on is 300, throw is 1,000. So it runs for 3 hours on normal and 35 seconds on throw, which is the 1,000 lumens, and that is not because it runs out of battery. That is so it doesn't overheat. IPX7 rated. USB-C charging. That's another thing. It's just, yeah, it's basically my everyday carry flashlight now. I mean, I have one that's on my keys. That's like a little tiny guy. And I found out that I actually have used for a standard flashlight, not just a headlamp, because this one came back from my mom because it no longer, well, technically I looked it up. This one never should have magnetically charged. I put the magnetically charging butt on it, and it did initially, but it doesn't anymore. So I actually keep this magneted near my desk, and use it for, you know, looking under the desk, you know, if I lost something in the carpet, you know, just like small stuff like that. But and then I've actually been using it for more, and I'm like, this kind of proved the usefulness of a standard flashlight to me again, because normally I would just grab my headlamp. But if you're just doing something quick, just need to take a peek at something, you know, it can be useful to have a standard flashlight. And like I said, this has kind of been on my brain after seeing it. Definitely not something I needed, but super nice form factor with just this toggle switch, and then the push it further forward for, I just blinded myself. Further forward for the turbo mode. Nice and sleek in the pocket. You can carry this around, like, say if you're going to a campfire or something, slip that in the pocket, no problems. Like I said, they're not cheap. These are tools, and they're sold as such. It does have a really good warranty. I need to register it yet. Other, like, these are patented as well, like this design is, to the point where, like, Olight, which I would say, like, the wedge is made by Streamlight. Olight, I would say, is like a secondary brand. They're cheap. But let's just say they have a version of that because that was so popular, right? And from what I heard, it's not as good. I think Coast makes a version of that now too. Oh, there's a little baby one. Oh, I threw the box out getting the number. It should be on here though. Okay, so here's the 8201 150. And this is not available in the Knipex Extend grip. I know. For shame, Knipex. For shame. Oh, it's because it's a little baby one. This is the TwinGrip 6-inch. That's what the 150 is. So this guy's 160. So this would be a 7-inch wire cutter. And this will explain why I like the DeWalt one. Okay, this 7-inch wire cutter has the head of a 6-inch wire cutter, in my opinion, right? DeWalt's 7-inch wire cutter has like the head of like a minimum 8-inch, if not a 9 or a 10-inch wire cutter. Like, but it would still pointy too, because usually when you get up those bigger wire cutters, they don't have the tip on them, and I like having a tip. But yeah, so this also came out with the 10-inch. Just have more options, kind of like with the Cobra. We got a 8-inch, 200 millimeter, 6-inch, 150 millimeter, and a 10-inch, 250 millimeter. And this is for when you need to get out those little tiny screws or get into really tiny places and hold something. What's interesting is, though the head is smaller, I would say that... Oh, did they fix that? Hey, look at that. They fixed that. Okay, so on the smallest setting of the TwinGrip, it can only open that far. It can't go open. Now, if you open it just one notch, it'll go much further. But I always thought, because it just hits back here. I wonder if this guy's fixed that way too. Yeah, that opens way further. I bet they just adjusted the... Yeah, here, for example. They just adjusted this cut. Right here. Look at the angle of this. We hit right there. So they just adjusted. Either this is cut up higher. The other thing I tend to notice is that this, it looks like more of a bulge. So if you go here, this comes out a little bit more compared to, see how that's in there? Same thing here. That's in there here. And I can still do that whole hinge. So I wonder if when they do this in Knipex Extend, if they will like kind of fix that. I wouldn't say it's like a huge issue. It's just odd that it just kind of stops right there, right? This is much more standard of a slip joint, where it can just open as wide as you need it to. It's not like a, you know, something like a, even this opens wider, and it would make sense to have a stop. But generally, how the slip joint works is that, like, they're always kind of loosey goosey, and you when using them, you kind of use that to your advantage, or you get kind of used to it. So it's kind of interesting to see that they fixed it on the 10-inch and the 6-inch. You know, not that you're going to use it that wide, but it's more of a feel of how the pliers feels for the type of pliers it is, and like what you're used to and that sort of stuff. So the 6-inch has 1, 2 spots. Right? Your 10-inch has a ton. This thing has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. But it's just smaller. Oh, and this is how I noticed this, because I was going to show you, like here. Oh, look at the teeth. Oh, look at the teeth. It opens plenty wide, and I can show you the teeth. Here it doesn't, and I have to make it go wider to, yeah, then it does that properly. So if you look like this, what they did, come on. What they did is the teeth on the 6-inch are actually the same size as the teeth on the 8-inch. I just wonder if that's something to do with like how small they can reliably cut it and it still be, you know, like reliable. Because down here too, these lower teeth are the same size as well. There's just less of them basically. Still got that same shape. You can just tell comparatively there's way less to it. Less complexity. Not saying it won't do the job. Just kind of surprised to not see smaller. Well, here's another thing you can see. On these TwinGrips, this part, this outer flat part, is only that small area, and then there's plenty of this sort of stuff around it. If you notice, that's completely flat, right? The other thing you can see is a bit of sheen on here, on this, like, I don't know if it's a powder coat or what that is on there. My TwinGrips are much more of a matte. Now, it could have originally had that, because I've used them. You can see where, like, they've twisted a little bit and started rubbing on the inside, just a hair. But it's all the steel's rounded over, so it's not gonna get caught in any way. Yeah, so what it looks like is, what often I don't use the standard TwinGrip in the this default position. I actually use it in one wider, because it's just much more. It's very rare that you need this to close like that too. Often you'll want. See, and then look at how much wider that opens. It's like they started. If you look at this small gap here too. See, it's like they started the default position on the TwinGrips with the jaws together, but one notch out on this. And like I said, this where it's slightly open like that, that is how I usually use it, because you're going to be fitting something in the jaws anyway. And you get kind of more of that, like, loose feel of a... Oh, God, I forgot how skinny this neck feels on this thing. Here, for example, here's how skinny these are. This is that 7-inch wire cutter, right? Look at that. Just even where you grip, it's the inside of this. They're, like I said, they're very unique and very, like I said, my go-to pliers. So I have a bigger boy for clunking on the car. Now, like I said, it's interesting that they fixed that whole that first step on there, and then the little itty guy. You know, like I know some people carry the little Cobras. There's like a 4-inch and a 5-inch Cobra. These are the 6-inch ones of these. So these are still a little bit big, but I know the 4-inch and the 5-inch, depending, a lot of people carry them as their EDC, or they'll have like a little thing on their belt where they'll have the Cobra and the pliers wrench in either a 4 or a 5-inch, and they'll carry that around all the time. This for me might be more useful. Is this this TwinGrip, to be truthful. This is one of those tools where unless you have a use, I wouldn't necessarily buy one. But it is also one of those things where if it's in your toolbox, and when you need it, it's there. It's gonna get you out of something, because to be able to hold something around with like decent grip, your standard Knipex, teeth and stuff like that, but in this like really small form factor, super duper useful. Like I said, for me, these were perfect, and they will still continue to be. I will buy the Knipex Extend version of them as soon as it is out, and then these will go to probably the garage, and or to another one of the toolkits if you haven't seen them yet. Just because they're too useful. I guess, why don't we look at this guy next here? This is this year's seasonal limited edition seasonal. I will go get previous years, which I did pick up. This is a dual tone Cobra, 180 millimeter, so 7-inch Cobra. Bi-color, that's what they call them. Limited bi-color is bright chrome plated and then dark phosphate with slim black non-slip handles. Yep, it's got the same textured handles as the TwinGrips do. These feel really light, actually. So here I brought this. This is last year's limited edition. The ergonomics on their pliers wrenches are insane. You can tell that this is wider. Like, you can actually see underneath where they purposely made it wider to be like to hit your palm, like this part of the palm in here. They have spots for you to use it this way to get your thumb in there. They have a spot in here. Now that's partially covered by a grip, but it does go down to here, so I don't know if the grip was just made a little bit too long. That this finger actually grips on, whether you're lefty or righty. Just ergonomically, it's beautiful. And then you're like, oh, but what do you mean? It's just like one of these, but like smooth jaw. No. What it does is it keeps the jaws parallel as you go wider. So that's what makes it a pliers wrench. And then this gets wider for the size than any crescent wrench would. Once these get updated to the nip extend, I will be happy to add them to my... You got a little bit of play in here. But even when you tighten it this way, it's hinged on a lobe here, like an off center like lobe. So what happens when you get it tighter, it doesn't misalign the jaws, right? They just move closer or further apart. You know, so if you're holding a nut, like, you wouldn't want to hold it like that. You'd want something much more close to the middle natural position to get it over, and then you can get it a little bit tight. You know, so often I feel like I'm using these kind of right in this region. But yeah, these are last year's limited edition. Black handle. Normally that would never happen with like the dark top here. Gold writing. Well, this time around we got the bi-color. Normally you'd be seeing those in that sort of chrome plated Cobra, right? And the Cobras are much older than the wrenches, I feel. This is the updated one where it's got the push button. Some of the older ones have a kind of similar to like a channel lock where you have to do the whoosh, like you put it in a certain angle and you slide it up and down. The button, I even have some old DeWalt, or not DeWalt, Black & Deckers from, I think, high school once again, that have like, you know, like I've chewed the teeth off since then. And and some Irwins, because Irwin is also owned, I believe, by Black & Decker. So I think that's how they got, and you're like, well, why would they do that? Well, Irwin owns Vice Grip, or at least the Vice Grip brand. They don't even own the actual like patent or whatever anymore, like the original. Somebody else makes those now. So what they did is they could brand these, like their channel lock replacement sort of as a Vice Grip and use that. These feel super light in the hand. Personally, I need a bigger set of these. I hear a lot of people say they need, which size was this one? These are the 7-inch. I'd probably want a 10 for something like this, to be truthful. But I had to pick this guy up because it's the limited edition. We'll just keep it, use it as is. Good introduction to, if you're like, would I like a Cobra? Well, if you're just gonna buy one and not buy a set, because you can buy like a whole set of these, might as well get the cool one, right? The cool bicolor. Or if you're just gonna keep one in your kit and this is the size you want, why not make it a unique one, right? So the black phosphate up here, which is darker than the normal dark, which is this guy right up here, right? You can see that with the older TwinGrip as well. Yeah, I feel like this has changed up a little bit more shiny. Running generally shinier surfaces, you're like, oh no, they hold up worse. No, they actually hold up better. Glossy, the more gloss actually in something, generally the more resilient it is, especially to scratching. So this feels like a good size, but even for my hand, just a hair small. These feel perfect. I've used these so often since having them. Nothing too crazy because I haven't had them that long. Since I only got them within recent months, even though they are last year's limited edition. Often you your normal places will sell out, but I could still find those and even previous ones on eBay for reasonable prices. A year plus later. If you do want them though, pick them up. You never know when they will actually go out of stock. Some of the Japanese black handled ones are they're worth a pretty penny for that reason. Let's see here. Oh, and I did bring up, here is my 10-inch Tekton 10-inch. Here's your standard slip joint. So here is something I hate about the Tekton. These were, I don't even know how long ago I bought these. There are probably, especially with Harbor Freight being a thing around here now. It was a thing back then. Harbor Freight's been a thing for a long time, but not necessarily where I live. I just noticed some of the teeth are really fucked on this thing. Like I often use this area more than this area. To kind of like grab stuff. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but I've used these quite often. Because I wanted a bigger pair. Now these feel like a much bigger pair. Like these are like whopping. Oh, and this Cobra style inner part there that's like angled like that is a million times better than that that's why I don't usually use the garbage in the middle here. I'd rather get like a channel lockout because that is it's such garbage. But the Tekton here, I don't know if you can see that, but that I'm not even pulling that hard. That's that, and they just flex. These do not do that. Let's see if I can make them bigger to, like they don't move. Another downside of the Tekton, and this is one thing that'll happen on a lot of the slip joints, but it's really annoying. That. They get kind of twisted up and then because they're off axis like that, the jaw gets all fucky wucky. There you go. But like I said, that's your standard slip joint. And now that I have a proper 10-inch, these can either go to one of the other toolboxes or the garage, or even my mom's toolkit. I don't know if she actually, this would be probably better than a slip joint that she has, even with some of these teeth super worn off. One thing that's very weird about this one has always been, you see how this goes flush on the front, right? There's this like groove right on the tip of the Tekton. You can kind of hear it clip clapping. See, there's that right there, and it prevents it from actually closing all the way, like flush. I don't know if anybody knows what that would be used for. Let me know. You can even see I've rounded off some of the whatever you want to call it on there, like the front of the teeth. That's another thing too. You can look at that's both from wear, but also how it was originally. Like, it's not flat, like it comes out in the middle. Whereas if you go to something like the Knipex, that is, I mean, yes, it has the little notch out for grabbing things, but it all fits together beautifully. Like it's just, you know, what, $50 tool versus sub $20 tool. You know, if this is all I can get, grab it. Because like I said, I wanted a 10-inch slip joint, and for years, this is all I could find. Even though my normal slip joint was nicer than this, my 8-inch. But sometimes you just need, especially in this mode, you need a bigger dude, and this is the best thing I could find locally. So I'm very happy. Like, how do you want to put this? I'm less happy or less enthused about the TwinGrip, the 10-inch TwinGrip existing to replace this, because it won't. I use this far too often. I don't have to deal with this anymore. Is the bigger thing. You can even look at it. It's just a shitty tool. Giraffe forged. China. Hey, tools are cheap. You can get cheap tools at Harbor Freight. You can even buy something very similar to this. That's all you can do. Do it. That's what I've done for the longest time. Gets you through. Gets you by. I'm not even saying you have to necessarily get Knipex. They are. I would be hard pressed to recommend something else. I have seen some, especially when it comes to like a whole lineup. That's kind of how Noctua does it too. Yes, they're not German; they're Austrian. But in the way of, they may not have every single product as the best one, but they have like nobody else. Like, I think smaller brands do have like TwinGrip-esque, where they got that notch in the front now. And other places obviously have the Cobra style with the button. But what they don't have, and some are starting to do it, but for the most part, a lot of them still don't have, is the ability to, once this is locked in and tightened, all you have to do is push here. You don't have to grip it with your hand, like hold it tight. You just have to push, because that bites. Because they're going in opposite directions, it bites. Now, some of them have updated over time to do that sort of thing. I think there's even some brands that are are starting to knock off their pliers wrench with the the sliding parallel jaws. This is a game changer. Compared to, like, it's never a bad thing to have like a classic crescent wrench on hand, and I probably will still pick up some at some point. I think a lot of people like the snap-on ones, and those are made by Baco, I believe. So I'll probably just buy Baco ones. Also German, I believe. Might be wrong there. But having used these on job for things, and now I own this one only. I do plan to get some bigger ones, especially for working on car stuff. I don't know, this feels so much more precise than the wheelie, rip, 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 and then when you turn it once and it gets loose nonsense. Now, obviously, because this is still a like 45-degree, not gonna be the same as a crescent wrench. You know, like there are still certain times, or if you get a full metal handled crescent wrench, you can still get a pipe on that thing. You know, whereas here it does have the same sort of thing where you push on this to tighten it. And that's, I mean, it's obvious here with the hingy thing, the oblong hingy thing. But you know, sometimes the classic stuff's still useful. And I have one crescent wrench, and it's a one with like a slidey thing on it. Apparently, Crescent Wrench patented that and tried doing that at some point. So yeah, I really do feel like when Tekton made these, they basically took their 8-inch and were like, make it 2 inches bigger, and they just scaled it. And that, yeah, they didn't do any of the other math there. Oh, the amount of play in this too over time. You can see it's like I said, this thing's seen use. So for I could have used it more, I guess. You can also see like with how dirty the Tektons. I clean my tools, so like it could look filthy if this was a mechanics tool that didn't clean things. But you know, it's seen its wear. It's lived its life, and it's not worn out. It'll go on either in a backup tool set or off to somebody else to use. So this is not me tool shaming, guys. You know, sometimes you get what's available. All right, let's take a look at. So all these next four, I believe, are from Home Depot, because apparently Home Depot, at least if you order online, now carries Knipex. But they all have the boxed ones. Generally, you're paying about $1 plus more to get the cardboard box, whereas you saw, if you've seen the previous videos and you saw at the beginning of the video with this guy came from the UK. A lot of those are sold by like tool sellers, like for industrial stuff. Yeah, they just ship it in the bag. They're actually different SKUs too. So this is one of their new tools. It's a crimper. And you can see 16 gauge, 10 gauge, 6 gauge, that's going the wrong way. These have to be numbers for something. For end ferrules. So the how do I want to explain this one? So basically, on the end of the wire, you normally have like raw stranded copper, right? And if you need to put that in a thing that can't have a stranded copper in it, or you have to tighten it down, or it needs a like snap in sort of thing, you can crimp on an outer like cylindrical ferrule, right? This is for doing that. I'm sure it can be used for like crimping other things, but it's specifically designed to use that. Probably not getting a ton of use out of this one personally. Just based on the fact that that does not come up all that often. Oh, and these get really friggin' small too. 1.5, 2.5, 4, 6, 10, 16. And there's one way down there for something else. It's not even numbered. But basically a crimper. Nothing too fancy. This grip just feels really good. Still. Let's add our yellow. Got it at the top here. Like, say if I have 2 drawers and I have 1 drawer of more common pliers, this guy's probably not going in there. Now, depending on what job you have, you're looking at like, oh, dude, I use this 97, 72, 180 every day. Every friggin' day. Apparently it says it's 23 to 5 gauge. And those are millimeters. Sure. Knipex. Sure. These aren't even tape shut. Interesting. So, let's see what we got here. Oh, here they explain about the Knipex Extend. Yeah, that is something I was surprised at. If you look, this is chrome, right? If you guys have seen, oh, I was gonna say I didn't have a linesman pliers. No, I did. I got the 6 or 7 inch linesman, the size down from this guy, the 150 or 160 millimeter, and it was chrome plated for the head. I was expecting this guy to be chrome plated, because that seems to be what they do on the smaller. You can see the picture, chrome plated. Don't know if there's a difference or whatever. In the foreign ones that I've gotten that have this same packaging, this seems, the U.S. packaging seems more robust. I don't know what that's about. Okay. These are cable shears, locking, right? But spring loaded. That's what I'm talking about. So 95, 22, 165. And these are specifically shears. Do not cut steel. It's reading it. Shears. Not a wire cutter. Shears. Do not cut steel. Copper, aluminum. When doing thicker wires, or even thicker gauge wire, like say you're doing something like a stranded for a battery terminal, or for a subwoofer in a car, or like speaker wire, basically like that. Using this, the reason why you use a shears and not a wire cutter, like this guy, you'd need a much bigger wire cutter to cut the same amount of wire that this does. Because what this does is it cuts individually, maybe not individual strands, but one at a time. The other thing is, by shearing it, you're like a scissors, you're cutting through it. Whereas a diagonal cutter, you're basically taking 2 wedges and putting them together. Now you get a much, like a really nice sharp cut with this, but you're actually squishing the wire to do it, right? Whereas especially once you get into these bigger stranded, these are also much better for solid core wire, right? That's why, generally speaking, my recommendation is don't use shears for solid core wire. You're gonna wreck them. I recently watched a video about somebody poo-pooing the shears that come on wire strippers. But he was cutting solid core 12 gauge Romex with it, with a wire shears. I don't know. Personally, I've been taught since being a wee lad that you don't cut solid core wire with a shears. Now, I mean, if you have a big enough wire shears, like these are pretty chunk, that may be okay. This does have some specs on it. You may want to go read the specs to make sure. What I can tell you though is that the strippers that come with shears on them, which I don't have a pair here, I do have a pair, but that the video was on, they're like his thought in his brain, well, he was actually like a knife person, and he ended up like retempering them and resharpening them, and that was like what the video was actually about. He's like, oh, if they just did a better job, you could do that. And it should be able to cut solid core Romex, because it can strip it. It's like, and then like, I don't know. Some of those did say that some of the ones he linked, and even some of the better ones from the more from the better companies, did say you could do that. I don't know. I've always been just taught from, I don't know, single digit ages, like you do not cut solid core wire with the shears. Like I said, these are big dedicated shears. That may be a bit different. Consult the Knipex website for. It's also right there. 15 millimeter, 50 millimeter squared copper aluminum. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what that actually does for AWG wire in the US. But the fact that this has its little lock and it's spring loaded, you're just gonna fly through. You know, when I finally get the speakers up in the basement for the home theater, because I'm going to put up the surround and Atmos speakers, can guarantee these are going to be used with the speaker wire, because I'm going to be running some pretty chunky speaker wire through the walls to the actual speakers, pretty low, you know what I mean, but through the walls we want I forget what gauge but like it's about as big as you want to run for a home theater. Oh, and this would also be one of the ones that you might want to put on, like, you know, if you're using this up on a lift, you know, like a scissor lift, put on your I've seen these actually being sold with the tether, and they're like 20 bucks more, probably because they have to make less of them with the grip, whereas now they can just make this grip. And all I can tell you is with how springy this is, I need more Knipex tools that have the spring loaded. Like I really do. Like that is, and it's seamless. You don't see a spring. It's not like they have a big spring hanging out here. It's probably all inside, like under this cap right there, in the actual molding. So this is the 95-22-165. Here we go. 12-degree high leverage diagonal cutter, 8-inch. So I have to imagine that it will do 10-inch at some point, because I know a bunch of the electricians out there that do it on the day-to-day swear by the 10-inch ones. Now, what this means by high leverage, because Knipex does have ones that double your, like, there's like a thing you move it into, like that actually, like, you open it wider and you actually have more leverage, right? Like the thing comes out at a sharper angle, you know, instead of here, it would be there, right? For the same amount of area. What this is, what they mean by high leverage, if you can see it, there you go. It's got a bent head, so that's flat, right there. Oh, and these do have they're also like these 74-22-200. Let me go put some of these pliers back, and I will go grab the other ones that are straight, so you can see the difference. All right, so I mentioned that these are the same. This is the one that originally came wrong with the original comfort grip. This is the 7402-200, and this is the 7422-200. I think I have the non-springy version of these. I would get the springy one if you ask me. I believe that's the 9512-165. So here's your difference. One's bent. You see that? If we flip them. That is your difference. So that's what I mean by high leverage. You guys let me know what you're going to use this, what was it, 12 degrees of angle for. Like, there you go. It's up off the surface. I have to imagine you're putting this, it's not a flush cut, but you theoretically, with whatever you're cutting, should be able to get a lot more flush than just the angle of this would have allowed, because your hand is actually out of the way. If you look like that, you know, that versus that. Let me know what you guys would use the angled one for. The one thing that I can think of too is sometimes you actually need to use a diagonal cutter to grab something, because it actually bites into it, and then now that you have this leverage, you can actually, and kind of like a for pulling things, you might use it. And you're like, well, that's not for cutting wire. Yeah, it's because you're not cutting anything. Yeah, and this actually does not specify on this one the maximum wire. Like this says, piano cap is piano wire of 2.5 millimeters, whereas this guy, the high leverage angled one, doesn't have that on there at all. I will say, because this thing, the 7402-200, oh man, does this feel great in my hand personally, like without a glove on it at least. I have the old one, the 7401-200, without the comfort grip, and this is what came in that pack from Menards. This thing always felt fine. You know, they still managed to get the grips wider than they are tall, to get you a little bit more surface area for, you know, for clamping down. But man, oh man, when they switched that to the nip extend, I feel like I'm at home on this thing. I barely used it. Had it for a bit now. Used it on a couple projects. Like I said, this thing is either gonna go in one of the tool bags, like the one in my car, which has the DeWalt stuff. I could change that out to Knipex, and or the office stuff, but that still has my Fat Max, and Stanley doesn't make Fat Max anymore, and that toolbox doesn't get used that much, and the toolbox is a Fat Max, so I don't know if that'll change. Otherwise, these will move to the garage, so that we at least got something out there, and I can be like, Mom, you can use these without any real worry, because I have the better one downstairs. You know, a little less concerned about them, you know. Here, once again, you can see this is generally the preferred grippy grip versus this kind of consumer, or I shouldn't say consumer, but like the less preferred shiny, and you'll see this on more tools more commonly. You know, like your channel lock branded stuff, which would be light, the blue. Here is a Tsunoda King TTC. I picked this up because it was interesting. It's a duckbill. I've never had a duckbill pliers before. Actually super useful for getting stuff that's like right up against, and it's got these really fine teeth on it. Ergonomically too. I like pliers like this. Oh, well, no, it seems like this, like where you got a smaller handle, but it's got like a lengthy front end. And it's not an extended front end. It's just like sometimes too, they'll have like big handles and like a smaller head. It just Generally, they have an interesting use. But yeah, this duckbill, also it's for grabbing like square things. You can grab, the angle that this is at is like, imagine a hex, but instead of grabbing the flats, you'll grab the like, the because you got 6 sides, you'll grab the two like this way, like one in from being flat. And you can actually grab it and hold it, which is kind of an interesting idea. But like just the fact that it's like super flat in here, and it's got some nice tight teeth. But as you can see, it's this shiny. It's grippy in its own right because it's kind of gummy, gooey, sort of, right? The Knipex, I would say, is not gummy, gooey, comparatively, for the shiny. But this actually has some amount of like grit to it. And I don't know if that was texture when they molded it or the type of material it is. It does show grime and goop more. One of the mechanics I follow, though, did opt not to get the green ones from Matco because they came in, even though it was the more professional tools, in order to get the green with Matco made it the shiny. Like here's a Klein. Yeah, here's just like the little Klein needle nose. I use this on, I don't know. For me, pliers matter about how they fit in the hand, and this one fit good because of this like rounded handle. Now you wouldn't want something that you're gonna like hold on to something real tight like that, but what it does give you with this handle is a lot of like maneuverability, or you can hold it like this and actually like, you know, like do stuff like that. The nose on it is kind of like short and stout, but like pointy. You can see with all like the surface rust that, yeah, these got a lot of use. Klein is pretty smart. They're only going in one direction, but they're also very fine. That was the other thing I found useful about this. But they're going in opposite directions on these, meaning that like they crisscross like this. So they're grabbing on opposite sides, pulling. They're not flat and straight, but they're actually angled. So you know, one of my favorite wire cutters is actually a Stanley. That's like relatively cheap now, but it's just I want to say the handle's about this size, but the head's only about that big. It's just super handy. And that depends on what you use, but I will just say that hand feel is a big thing for me with pliers. That is why I was saying those pliers wrenches. Oh man, do those feel good in the hand. These also fit great. I don't think these smaller ones, like I feel like the grip, the handle should be a little bit smaller for what they are. Maybe like the angle just maybe doesn't feel right. For what these are trying to do with being very slim, great handle on these, especially at least on the original TwinGrip. If you knock it down one size, much better. The new 10-inch kind of feel that way out of the box. I kind of showed you guys why. And they do feel a little bit slimmer. Once again, if you just knock it out one size, they actually are a little bit slimmer in hand because you just got that little gap. And more than likely, the way that you're going to be using this, you're going to need that at least one bumped out. But at least they fixed the head issue where it hits itself too soon. Notice that in the little guy too. Less noticeable though, because it's just so tiny in your hand already. Something with this too, if you just want to keep it closed, you can hold it like that if you must. But often like this dip in here is actually so you can go like this, and it's not until this part becomes the size of the head, like you can get it around pretty wide stuff to get it in there and still get it closed. As long as the head fits in, you can get it open because it doesn't get any fatter than the head does. You can get it open that far and then get it chomped down on something. I often use like that sort of a, not with these are brand new, but with various pliers. Let's get some yellow on these as well. So that is our high leverage diagonal cutter, 12 degree. So 12 degree high leverage. Like I said, instead of being flat, it's like that. So obviously you're cutting, you don't necessarily need what you're cutting to be flush, but you want your hand away from that surface. Those of you that are using these every day, tell me what you're using them for. Why do you want what they call the high leverage, which is this 12 degree angle on it? Or are you pulling things out, like I said, like staples or something? There are staple pullers. So you wouldn't necessarily use these for that, but you could. You know, a lot of times use whatever tool you must do in a pinch. I do like when they get a little bit bigger because they go from this dual tapered design to the where you have the grip here, and this flares out instead of being like zoop zoop. That makes sense. Even my non-nip extend did that, and it just really lets you lock in with that pinky and get that leverage. I will say, for the most part, I've always in the past preferred the dipped handles like this, but nip extend, just the profile that they managed to get where it's actually wider. Not only like that's why I know these are replacing their comfort grip, but I am glad they're not. If you order the comfort grip and they only have nip extend, you'll get these. But they're not advertising it necessarily as a comfort grip. Like it's their multi-part whatever, because the comfort grip always felt like smushy or mushy or whatever. And for the most part, I never liked them. Whereas these, like, you have more grip because it's almost like this blue's kind of like a rubberized material. It's not soft, right? But it's rubberized. This gray is actually like a soft, like you can feel it. It actually feels like a rubber. And then the red's just like a plastic. It's probably not plastic. It's probably like a nylon, whatever composite. You know, like your drill would be, which is a 30% nylon with a 30% fiberglass infill or something like that. You know, this is a 3-piece multi-part mold. And like I said, I have tried out and not liked the old comfort grip, and I even have this exact pliers. And I also have this one because I ordered this guy, and it came with the old comfort grip. It's much more bulbous. Because you don't get this nice flat grip, flat right there, and that's what because you want to distribute the weight of your hand onto the handle. If that's making any sense. That's why you'll see even on these, they try to make the handle wider even for these dipped ones to give you more surface area to basically bear down on. Yeah, for me, we'll see how useful this size Cobra is. It's mostly a limited edition one. I can already tell you. I mean, not that there wouldn't be a time and a place to use this, but I feel like I need a bigger one for doing bigger tool things. Oh, we forgot the this is the 74-22-200, whereas the normal one is the 74-02-200. And the normal one is the 01. So one must be dip grips, normal, and then 2 must be comfort, because that's how I got these originally. They sent me, even though the picture showed the new nip extend. That came through Amazon. Amazon didn't want it back. So I have an extra one of those that I'll toss someplace. Free Knipex pliers? Hey, I'm not gonna say no to that, right? And this is... Remember how we talked about this guy being a shears, right? This is a nice, handy... I was kind of giving it a bit of guff earlier when I was like, oh, I prefer the other handle. This I don't like that much. Just like I don't like the... what is it, 7-inch size, this 160 size. This 165 size in this shears, if you look, it's more slender. This feels amazing in my opinion, right? But this is a shears, right? We bop that out. If you don't let go, you got a nice springy shears there, right? This is a shears. I was kind of half expecting, and I can almost guarantee some of the bigger Cobras are going to come with this beefy grip. you can see how much bigger that, even though this is only a 225, right? And this is a 250, the grip on this guy here is way bigger. And you're like, what is it? It's a step cut. Step cut. So it's another type of shears, except what it aims to do is step cut. So if you notice, there's different steps here, you know, like big, little. So what it's going to try and do is, normally a shears would already try to cut individual strands at a time, right? That's how you don't crush it, right? In this case, with the step cut, how it's working, and if you look here, there's actually like a little notch on the backside too, is it's actually trying to cut through only part of the wire at once. And it actually is to the point where on the front here, that's like a nibbler, where you can actually take chunks out of it, to do it. Right, you can take chunks out of it, or you can take chunks out of the I was gonna say heat shrink, the insulation, or whatever, you know, like whatever's covering it, because some of these really big wires that have many big conductors in it have really thick. You're not going to cut through like shielding on it, but you know, like, and you can take nibbles out of it. Then once you get that cut off, you can get this all the way around, and you just. That's the best way I can do it, or best way I can explain it. So this is 23 to 120 millimeter copper and aluminum, and this guy, by comparison, was 15 to 50. So almost a little bit less than double on the low end, and more than double on the high end. For what I use, this kind of a shears is much more common. I have a Klein version of this magneted over on my workbench for cutting, like when I have to cut a lot of stranded wire that's, you know, of thicker gauge. This is a much nicer one. So this feels really handy in the hand. Handy in the hand. Ha ha. And I like the size. This thing is your chonky boy. On one of the Autotech, not Autotech, but you know, that sort of thing. Tool truck videos with one of the auto mechanics. There you go. The tool truck guy was saying he sells a bunch of these, specifically the old step cut. This is actually the step cut XL. This is even the bigger one. He sold a bunch of these previously, the just normal step cuts, to junkyards. They would cut out use it for cutting out battery terminal, like not that terminal off the battery, but like the battery leads out of cars, because those are, what would they be, like 0 to 2 gauge or whatever. Like they're really thick, and this was the only thing that would every time just slice right through it. That was a handheld tool. And he would sell them all the time. I know how much these cost. They are very not cheap. Like, you'd be like, oh, these are about the same size. Yeah, well, this is like you can tell by the black, it's a much harder steel because it's a cutter, not a, I don't want to say how much harder steel, but like a different type. There's more work into this. There's also way more grip into this. Apparently with the old ones, like, he would sell them all the time because like they would lose them or leave them in a car. And I'm like, okay, that's another reason why you buy the tether, guys. If you don't want to forget your fucking tools, attach them to you, or your tool bag, or your tool cart, or your whatever, because trust me, at the cost of this, it's not Snap-on levels, but like, you are not going to want to be replacing this. That's like kind of like the whole point of buying Knipex is, or not just Knipex, but any tool with a lifetime warranty from a quality brand that you know will stand behind it. The whole point is you keep it, you use it, then when you have an issue, they replace it. I brought it up and showed you for my fellow FELO screwdrivers. They're another brand like that, limited warranty. As long as you don't misuse it, they'll just replace it, even for worn out tips. And if you go to a lot of like say your Huskies or whatever, a lot of them will say like no wear and tear, like no regular wear and tear. And for a screwdriver, yep, the regular wear and tear is the tip, which means what is that warranty worth to you? Like if the handle comes off or something, because all you're going to do with that screwdriver is use it until you wear the tip out and then need to get another one. Well, at least so far with Fellow, I actually send them specifically a picture of the tip being messed up, and that's when they replace it. You know, or like, you know, say something's wrong with the handle or something like that. But every time for me, so far, it has been the tip has started, and you're like, oh, what are you doing to make your screwdrivers and tips start? I just use them, guys. That's what happens to screwdrivers eventually. Either you strip the screw or you strip the screwdriver. Sometimes both. And it's not like I'm doing them crazy. I replaced my one of my Phillips 1 Precisions. I have 2 of them because I use them so much. I replaced my Phillips 2 wooden handle. I replaced my Phillips 2 non-wooden handle because Phillips 2 is the number 1 screwdriver you're going to use in the United States. I replaced a slotted, I think it's like a 5/32. For whatever reason, 5/32 slotted, I use all the friggin' time. I just need that size a lot. So it gets worn out. It got twisted on the edges. I replaced it. I think there was one other one, too, that I can't remember off the top of my head. You literally just send them a picture of model number here, the thing that is wrong with it. I did have to figure out how to do it because they're like, apparently you're supposed to go through your retailer for that. Well, my issue is that my retailer was Fleet Farm before they got bought out. So they don't carry the brand anymore. So I can't walk in there and replace it. But say if you bought Fellow from KC Tool, for example, because I bought some German tools. They're like a specifically like German tool reseller, like an online German tool reseller in the US. You'd actually go to them for replacement, not Fellow directly. However, I found out that if you do, as long as you have your receipt, to be truthful, I'm trying to think if they even asked for the receipt. I don't know that they did. Like they just replaced it. You know, and I've heard of people having very similar experiences with Knipex. Also, from what I've heard, you're gonna have to put a ton of work into using a tool to wear it out, and it's a Knipex. And to be truthful, if that's the tool, like I know, or I've heard of, I don't know anybody personally, but I've seen or watched videos where electricians have actually worn out like the linesman pliers or the wire cutters. Often they'll just have a second set and then they'll warranty the first one because they're using it so frequently. And I can see that. Like that's why I have multiples of other tools around here. Or I have replacements if there's certain bits I know I like, or certain tools I know I use. I always have a +1 at a minimum. If I know I'm going to actually go through it, I will have a plus more. However many more is good to have on hand. Or for even like common computer parts, like I use the right angle 24 pin when I do builds for people, or myself or other people very often. And I just keep one on hand now because I use it so often, or if I help a build, so many builds, it just cleans it up. And I'm like, hey, I got one of these. Like, here's what it looks like in my build. Do you want that? Yep. Okay. Then I'll just order another one. That's how I did a lot of the stuff when I was on-site tech too. I would just carry one. If they needed it, they got that one. Order replacement. Or often, you know, say some of the stuff got to the point where each tech would carry one. We'd have an extra one back at the office because we go through them fairly frequently. Then when that one or multiple got used up, you replace what's back at the office. You know what I mean? Because that's how it goes. It's like, say Phillips 2 bits in a drill, or Torx. Like if you're building a deck, you're not using one Torx 25 for the whole deck. Good luck if you think you are. It ain't happening. From my experience, though, I will admit, or I will say, the Milwaukee bits seem to be the best. At least last the longest. The Shockwave, I prefer if they had the carbide, matrix carbide, but you can't get those anymore. They've been recalled. And it's all because somebody marketed them as being impact bits, when being harder, they should, like, the exact thing you should use them not for is impact. Damn marketing. They made a good product. I've never worn out a matrix carbide bit from Milwaukee, but I bought a bunch when they were recalled off of eBay, because I really like them. If you use them in, like, people are using them for drywall because there's almost no torque there. I use them in PC building because there's, like, comparatively, you're not going on a computer. You know, you're just taking out screw, putting in screw, taking out screw, putting in screw. It's a lot. Like, you actually go through bits fairly often. I could show you my LTT screwdriver. It really needs a new Phillips too. I should probably swap that out. That's just what happens with tools. So ideally you buy ones with a good warranty. If it's something you use enough, you maybe buy two. That way when you know, one does get replaced, you have another on hand. Or maybe your second one is a worse one that you can just use in the meantime. You know, all depends on how much your job relies on that tool. But yeah, what this is for is taking these big, giant chomps out of big, thick cables. So you can take nibble, 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 and you basically go around, you can spin the cable, nibble, 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 and you can get it in there and go. And what the little the step cuts are for is basically trying to even separate it out, like, you know, on your normal shears. It's shearing from one side to the other, right? But you're still shearing, like, the whole wire at once. If that makes sense. The step cut is trying to kind of, like, sort out the wires, so you're cutting, like, a small, like it's pinching it without, like, squishing them, to try and cut less of the stranded wire at once, if that makes... Trying to describe that. If you notice too, this thing is designed to really get in there. Compared to some of these, it is very skinny for what it can cut, and then it gets very, very, very wide. So you can get some. This is not a bolt cutter. This is not. You know, it's just for very thick wires. They give some good demos of this. Compared to the old step cut, like, what happened with the XL? Well, they made this a bit more complex, probably so it can do the things I described, and they do in their video. But then they added that nipper at the front, where you can kind of nip at the outside of the wire to get started, right? Because it might have like a really thick outer sheeting, like maybe it's like an outdoor burial wire. Generally has very thick outer sleeving, coating, whatever you want to call it on there. My brain is, it's past 3 a.m. So my brain, and we've been going at this for nearly 2 hours, guys. 2 hours. We'll have to cut some of that out. But if you've been with me the whole time, you know, let me know. For any of these tools, which one of these would you have, and what would you use it for? Like, the step cut is one of their newer ones. I can definitely think of... This is also one of those tools that it is not cheap. If you use it all the time, you'll know you'll need it. Otherwise, it's one of those tools that if you buy it, like if I buy this, and people I know I have it, they'll want to borrow it. Because for the things it does, if you just have a standard wire cutter like this or something, that's not even in the same league. Depending on what you're doing, you'll be at this for forever with this. Proper tool like this has a proper freaking grip on it. Seriously, like, you basically wrap her around there and you just give her. That's why the handles are also so long. But the shape of the cutter is supposed to help with kind of separating and cutting, well, step cut, cutting the stranded wire in steps rather than like a standard shears, this guy here, all at once. And you can just tell by the jaw size that this cuts a much smaller wire than that guy. That's why it's also written on there. Another one that I'm pretty sure has existed previously, but you know, I'd like to know your guys' input on, is this high leverage wire cutter. Yes, this is only the 8-inch, the 200 millimeter. Some of you out there are gonna be like, oh, I wouldn't want that one until it's 10-inch. Okay, cool, but what do you use the high leverage, the angled, the 12-degree angled wire cutter for? Let me know. Like, what is a task that you do that you're like, hey, if I had this, the normal straight guy, it would suck. Or like my life got way better by using this one. Oh, and I put these in the wrong spot because I'm a dum-dum. Obviously this wire ferrule crimper, if you need to do wire ferrules, I have to imagine this would be a very reliable. This would definitely, I could see if you're doing like solar installations and you have like a specific steps and stuff, this be like green or whatever, and it'd be like, okay, now grab the green pliers, like, you know, like, and you'd be like, green pliers, there, boom, grab. I tend to not color code my tools, but I do put them away always in the exact same spot, so then when I go in my tool bag, I know right side is cutters, left side is pliers, or actually, if I open it from the top, it's usually left side, because I'm looking down into it. From looking at it from the front, it'd be right side, but top, it'd be towards the front left then. So this isn't anything too fancy. I mean, it is actually fairly fancy, I should say. It has a very specific task. You are probably not encountering this unless you need it for that. This may end up getting stand-in for crimping other things if required, because a crimper is a crimper, and it's better than no crimper. Some of you, I know out there, are super pumped about the 10-inch TwinGrip. I am happy, mostly because now I don't have to use that Tekton anymore. Because when you need a 10-inch slip joint, you need a 10-inch slip joint. This guy, my 8-inch TwinGrip, though, is not going anywhere. And we got our limited edition bi-color Cobra. This is the 7-inch, 7 1/4 inch order. It's the did we get a number on this guy? I don't even know if it has its own model number. Yeah, it's just Season's Greetings limited edition. $87.99 180 SO1. There you go. It's not on the pliers because most of theirs that are limited edition, like I have the We Are Winners, We Are Legends, We Are something like that. It's the limited edition white version of this. That doesn't have the model on either because that's where they put the limited edition thing. Oh, this is vanadium super. Aren't these other ones just like chrome vanadium or something? Yeah, chrome vanadium. Doesn't say what the step cut is. Doesn't even say what the 10-inch TwinGrip is. That's weird that on some of them, see, this says vanadium super, and this one obviously, whichever one I just had, said chrome vanadium on it. Here you go. The high leverage diagonal cutter. CRV, if you see that, that's chrome vanadium. Basically everything, or all the pliers are going to be that. A lot of screwdrivers are as well. Another common one that you'll see is S2. Usually that's impact rated. That's usually a higher quality tool and bit if it's made out of S2 steel. All of Vim tools are made that way. I have a couple of theirs. They have some really thin wrenches that I've actually needed before. I wish I had them for a project, so immediately after the project was done, I ordered it. That's when you get your tools, when you hate yourself enough that you should have ordered it before doing the project. Yeah. And those are all S2. Even the cheapy bits I get here. These are all these 4mm Phillips 2s I get that are super skinny. These are S2 steel out of Taiwan. And I think it's almost required for these because in order to be strong enough to be this skinny, you know, they have to use the higher quality steel. And there's also less blade on the tip because remember, instead of being a 1/4 inch wide, it's only 4mm wide. So there's less engaging there. So they do wear out. I wouldn't say, I mean, they wear out quicker than like a 1/4" Milwaukee bit, but they don't wear out quicker than like a cheap 1/4" bit. Like here's a matrix carbide bit from Milwaukee, and this is my most used screwdriver. There's like a dark line on it from like how far it normal, and that's if running. How can you get away with only having a 4mm wide number 2 Phillips? Well, if you look, that dark line there, that's how far it only gets in most Phillips number 2s anyway. So you really don't actually need the rest of the bit. You only need to go down to there, which is effectively where they are. But minus that line, like there is actually no wear on the bit. Now the issue is because they're so hard and they're so resistant to wear, and they advertise them as being rated for impact. No, they are the exact opposite actually. Like you shouldn't be using them in impact. So that is why I only use them in my electric screwdrivers or in my handheld screwdrivers. And even then I try not to use them in my hand, how do you want to put this? They're so hard too. They can actually mess up screws. Like a normal good bit can, like even a Milwaukee bit or an S2 steel, because you can get S2 just S2 Phillips 2 bits. Those will mess up a standard screw. Standard screws are made out of garbage metal. But like those Milwaukee carbide ones, if you didn't have it seated right and you let it rip, it would just take the screw out. Obviously, when we put it in the reason why I use screwdrivers versus like an impact when building a computer is because I have the torque setting. So I usually have it down at 1, 2, 3, max 5 or 6 torque, depending. Like that's going to be like putting the case together sort of torque levels, or IKEA furniture levels of torque. Whereas like on an impact, like done. Let me know if you guys have any uses for the 6-inch TwinGrip. Is there something that you were like, I wish my normal TwinGrip was tiny so it could do it? If it was tinier, or if you have any things of like, oh yeah, that'd be great to have this, like the TwinGrip out front in this tiny thing. Like I said, this is not a small enough to be like one of the pocket tools. Like for those of you that EDC the Cobra, like the 4 or 5-inch Cobra or the 4 or 5-inch. Some of you do both of the wrench as well. It's because you're 1 to 2 inches bigger than that still. But let me know if there's anything specific that you do regularly that's on the smaller side that this would be super useful for. Or maybe you regularly use if you have a 6-inch, like I don't know that I've seen a 6-inch slip joint pliers before, to be truthful. Like a little slip joint, usually they're 8-inch. Finding that 10-inch was kind of hard. Not this one, the Tekton at the time, because let's just say that was, I'm not gonna say 10 years ago, but maybe actually. Oh gosh, time sure flies. So, and this guy basically picked it up because it came out with in the nip extend grip. I personally, for what I would do, would probably grab the bigger one first. This one right here feels better in the hand, has the better grip in my opinion. This does have the pointier tip, so depending on what you're doing, that may be useful. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller. You can get it in places like maybe if you're doing more electronics work than electrician work, this could be useful. Personally, I would go even smaller than this, and I'm interested to see Knipex do that, because I would grab, oh, that's pliers, but I would grab something like like this guy here, something that small. And for talking, you're like, oh, I can use it for cutting tie wraps. I wouldn't. You want a flush cut for that. And if you're specifically cutting tie wraps, you're going to want one of these that I think I've done videos on, which is, this is how I ended up buying that other Sonoda, the duckbill, the King whatever. I think it's King whatever. Yeah, King TTC, the duckbill from them. Apparently the King TTC is one of their most popular tools. This is also their other tool that one of their other tools that they're very well known in the US for is their, I want to say that's like a 45-degree angle probably. But this is their tie wrap pliers. So they're flush cut. They're actually even rounded flush cut. So they are like more than flush cut. And then in here, there's actually a gripper right here. So you put it over, you pull the tie wrap through, and then you snip it off. This is the sort of thing. These feel great in the hand. This is their biggest size at 150 millimeter. Then we have the 125 millimeter. These are in like a weird, awkward middle position, in my opinion. Like the head feels too big for the handle. And these are the smallest guys, which is the 100. I got it in the S, which is Springa. So this is what I use for doing PC stuff. To be truthful, I always forget to use these because I have for so long used the extended Pro America tools. If you can see here, might be able to see why I use the Pro American tools too, because you can really get into a PC. So if we hold it back by the handle, that's how much further it gets in. So basically another head length in there, right? A lot of like cheap Chinese brands or maybe even Taiwanese brands make an extended wire cutter. Even Menards carried them, but say in a whole rack of, so a whole shelf, like a whole peg hook, you know, like that comes off the pegboard when they're selling them at Menards, that's like 10, 12 pliers or whatever, right? I would pull out one or two of these of their equivalent brand. Now, yeah, they were $3 or something. And I still have one pair left over there. Master Force. But in that whole rack, I would get like two, right? You sometimes one or sometimes even none in that entire rack. And like a couple times I'd have the Menards people look at me and were like, why are you taking every pliers off the shelf? And it's because what you do is you close the pliers. You hold up the light. I learned this a long time ago. If you can see light through it, you do not want a diagonal cutter that you can see light through. Now, obviously on this guy, there are the grippers down here for pulling the tie wrap, because you use that kind of as a pliers to pull it tight, and then you move this back this way and snip it. That's different. But when your diagonal cutter and you're holding up, it will never cut low gauge wire properly. It will never, especially tie wrap. All it'll do to the tie wrap is mush it. What is his name? Something FPV. He does a bunch of shorts. He actually mentioned that trick in one of his videos. And I mean, I've been using that trick for 20 plus years at this point. Because I always wondered why I would get, like, I've always done tons of cable management in computers. Gotta remember, I've been building computers for at least that long now. Oh no. Yeah, so I probably did this 15 to 20. We're probably getting up on 20 years that I've built computers now. I would always wonder why when I clip wires, they would like smush and not clip. Or when you clip you go to a tie wrap and you cut it off and it like gets all dangly and you can like bend it and break it off. But like it didn't clip through. You don't hear the snip. And you'll know if you guys use diagonal cutter, you don't want to when it goes, you'll hear you never hear that. And that's when I figured out the trick of that. But it was kind of fun to hear somebody else mention that. They're like, yeah, before you eat, like you and I would even do it in the packaging, because you just bend the packaging back, hold it up to light. Oh, that one's garbage. On the next one, hold it back. That one's garbage. You're like, well, why are you spending that time? Why don't you just buy a better thing? Well, that's what I did. Pro America Tools. This is the 4046. Love this one for doing electronics and PC. It is pretty close to flush cut. It is not a true flush cut. It is still a diagonal cutter. But if you're ever getting into electronics and you need to cut something, having this extended bit here, super duper duper useful. You also get a bit more leverage because these are longer. Not that you really need it, but you only ever need to like. And this thing, I've bought 5 pairs of these at least now. Never once have I had an issue. They are made in the USA. You are paying $20 a wire cutter for this, versus $3 to $6 for the other one that I was doing, and probably somewhere between $3 to $10 on Amazon for the Chinese brands. All I can tell you is if you buy one of those, you can try it. I do actually have some in my recommended tools for that of ones I have tried that are similar to, like, very, very similar. It's probably the same OEM as the Menards one. The only thing I will say is when you get it, you want to hold it up to the light. If you can see through it, it ain't going to cut shit. You send it back to Amazon. And that is something I can tell you I've never had an issue. Like, if you buy, like, a good brand, like a Klein, Channel Lock, like those DeWalt ones that I like that are the 7... those DeWalt ones are, like, brilliant. But it's like when you start getting to store brands or Chinese or low-end Taiwanese stuff, what's the point? Or, like, here, I can go get a Stanley wire cutter. There's one that I really like. I posted about it on social media before. Like, I swear the part of the reason why I love it is because I think my dad had one ever since I've basically been born. He probably had it before I was born. But it's like a small 6-inch one. Love the size. The size of the head is perfect. Stanley makes it. I have had a number over the years, given them away. For a long time, I couldn't find it, but then I, wandered into Fleet Farm one day and saw it on the shelf, and I'm like, oh, I'm buying it. And I've just always had that one because I have not needed one since. And now that I know the model, though, you can find it online, if needed. But that thing's like a $5 wire cutter. And all I can say about Stanley, good job, Stanley. I have never seen you make a wire cutter that can't cut wires or tie wraps, which cannot be said about Husky or Master Force or random brand off Amazon. You know what I mean? And it's not like that's inexpensive pliers, right? But if you cut a lot of tie wraps, check out these Sonoda. I forget what they're actually called, like what the name of it. It's a KBN 150, 125, or 100. And I would recommend if you're going 100, get the S. I have the 100S in all of my tool bags. And have one down here for working on computers. I have to really get myself into remembering to use it, though, because you really get down to, like, that much only, like when you're using it. Whereas I am used to, with the extended guy, being quite a bit more out there. That's why I would like, if they make this guy, to be truthful, if you're, because I use 18-pound tie wrap. The more common one you guys are probably using is like a 40 to 50 pound. Like in computers, like there's 18 pounds, like the skinny guy. They make even smaller than that. I really should probably pick up some of those or figure out what pound tie wraps go by pound. That's how strong they are. That usually determines how thick they are. Then there are some common sizes of those, right? You want to make sure you get nylon tie wraps when you buy them. I have some in my commonly recommended tools. Sometimes they're in descriptions of videos. I recommend, like, normally for the 18-pound, you get the 4-inch guys, right? You can buy them in 8 inches, right? I recommend that for PC because it's much easier to cable manage with that longer wire. Normally I think it's like 40 or 50 pound size, which is the next most common size up. Normally those are 8 inches, right? I recommend get those longer once again. Because generally, if you need that thicker strap, you got to go around something bigger. At least the way that I use them, personally. So I think they're like an 18, or like a 14, 16, 18-inch long instead of an 8. They're considerably longer, but if you get those in nylon, like they're like 50-pound tie wrap. But I can tell you that same 50-pound tie wrap, if you go buy the white plastic ones from Walmart that they call that a 50-pound tie wrap, and then you go and get these guys, I have to imagine they're exceeding the spec, because there's no way that like the 50-pound is like it's like a 2x4. A 2x4 isn't actually 2x4. Now it does have standards, like there's like lumber standards for that, but you know, like 18-pound tie wrap is like a certain size. It should at least do 18 pounds. I don't know if I would trust the ones I have to do much more than that, but if you compare a normal like 40-50-pound tie wrap to the ones that I pick up, I feel like they should be doing a lot more, or could be doing a lot more. They feel much more robust. But that's where you want to use this bigger guy on, is those ones. These are very, very sharp. Another thing, these may look like wire cutters. They are not wire cutters. You know how these ones, they do not have it on. Yeah, I just don't like the handle of this, of the 125. It's almost the same handle as the 100. And it's just, the 100 actually feels good in the hand. The 125 is in this awkward place where it either needs to be more rounded, or if you go up to the 150 where they actually like less rounded it. And my only, like I said, my only downside of this is I wish they put the spring thing from the 100 into the 150, or all of them really. Because usually when you're cutting tie wraps, normally what I do is I don't put one tie wrap in and cut it. I put a bunch of tie wraps in, and then you go snip, 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 snip. Or in this case, you would pull a tight snip, pull it snip, snip, pull a tight snip. That, with the spring thing that reopens it, super duper duper useful. These Sunoda ones are also, if you look at this, they're actually grippy. And they are actually like a little bit gummy too. Now this guy might have originally been, ow. Oh, I just gave myself like a blood blister there or something by chomping myself, like, chomp. This might have originally been, like I said though, this has seen a lot of use. I use tub of towels to clean off all my tools before I put them away. And that gets them, I use them to clean off power tools. I've bought used power tools on eBay that don't use like Snap-on stuff, because that's all I can only flare it's when it's used. Generally, maybe one or two there, here or there, when I can't find it, because if I'm looking for a very specific one and they don't have it used, I may go out of my way and buy it. But yeah, if you want Snap-on, the reason why you can get it used, and if you watch, you can get it in good quality. Like, you basically check the label, make sure that that's not all messed up. You're like, why label? Well, because it's very common, like, for that to get easily messed up, which means it's seen a lot of use. Or they're just like, how clean is it? A lot of these sellers could put 5-10 minutes into cleaning up the Snap-on tool and get another $20, $30, $50, $100 out of it. Seriously, I have flipped them and done that. But the tub towels works great for that. They actually even make a spray now. That also comes from what is it? It's Kuhn Truckin'. Watch his stuff. You guys like tools, watch his stuff. He's a mechanic, and he does tool truck tours. Also works for Vim now, from on the marketing side, which I was using Vim tools before hearing about that, and then hearing about like, you know, like how they've existed, what they've done. Well, even better. Like having like a nice option. If you not like me and want to make your own bit set, check out Vim. And what I mean by that is not like an iFixit, because you're not going to put those in an Impact. But if you want, like, you know, your triple square, your Torx, your security Torx, your every 1/4-inch bit, and they even have ones for now like 1/4-inch Impact and 3/8-inch Impact and stuff like that now. They'll have it in every freaking size. It's in one kit. You pop it open. You don't have to track down like what I do, which is I buy, you know, like, okay, does DeWalt, Milwaukee, Klein, like, who has the bits that I need? All right, now I got to find a container. Now, are you going to pay for that because they're all premium bits, and they've done the work for you? Or you are going to pay for it. But it is going to be a quality product. So for me, of this, what's probably getting the most use? Probably the 10-inch TwinGrip, and then the wire shears with the spring thing in it. Let me know yours. See the next one. Here, you want to know how? For those wondering, here's how you know it's time for bed. There's Paisley. Daisy Marie. And there's Gertrude on my new Coop pillow that I got on Black Friday. Gertrude, how do you like my pillow? Here's a cat bed on a pillow with a blankie. It's normally where she sleeps. New pillow comes in because she needs cross-cut memory foam to be a granny kitty. Well, guys, let me know what you thought. Questions, comments as always down below. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads. I think I made a Blue Sky. We're working on that one still. Have a good one. Peace. Alright, just thought I'd clarify since I'm a dummy dum-dum and was apparently quite tired last night. I had the these flipped around. What I mean by that is I was putting my colored one at the top and I was going to put the tether on the bottom. And then if you'll see in that video, I was like, the tether thing gets in the way when you open it up. Like, here's a snipper, for example. You like this, your pinky would hit the tether. Well, tether's really supposed to be on the top. So now what I get to do is go through all of these. And as you can see with that flipped out, flip them all around the correct way. So this is getting pulled out, put on the bottom, and the tether going on the top. For example, like this guy for me. So that's how all of mine will be. Took the chance too of labeling my drawers. We've got nip extend pliers, big pliers. Well, it's technically some cutters too. Here we've got the smaller, thinner. You're like, well, why do you have two different kinds of racking? Well, with the comfort grips, you need a wider pliers holder. If you guys are interested in which one that is, let me know. Eventually, all of these, well, specifically this way is going to go out to the garage. These will go into either other toolkits or the garage or even to my mom, because these are my Irwin, kind of like the Cobra. So I got the push button and everything. Definitely not as nice, but hey, they've served me well. Like I said, I got some heat shrink on this one. These guys will probably end up moving into the big pliers. Here. In that video I was talking about towards the end too, how you shouldn't use, this is a shears on a stripper. Don't use that on solid core wire. And to be truthful, I don't care if the manual says you technically can. Don't. That's what I'm going to tell you. Also, if anybody has these, I don't particularly like them. Does anybody have these? And really, they've stopped producing these a long time ago. There's multi, if you're running like, oh, those don't look very used. Yeah, because I don't know if they're trying to do too much. Love these. Apparently they made a smaller pair. These things are monsters. Complaints that people did have is that the handles would fall off. The comfort grip. I've not had that, and I use these for all sorts of things that I'm not supposed to. Like cutting wire fan grills. Those are steel. And the teeth on here, or the jaws I should say on here, are still, I mean they're used, but they're minty fresh. So I'm trying to hunt down either a second pair, or apparently they made a smaller version of them. I don't know if those would be as useful. And there is a third pliers from this line, because if you notice by the grips, that's the same style grip. There is a third pliers. I think it's like a linesman style. I never did get that one because, like I said, I was disappointed in this one. After this guy, that was unique. So when Milwaukee discontinued that, I was bumming, you know. See, it's got the angle. They actually advertise that angle for pulling out staples and nails and stuff like that. Just like a beefy guy. But yeah, I was wrong in my video. On the top part, that's where your tether should go, which would explain why my pinky hitting it and it getting in the way, because it's supposed to be on the top. Thinking about it too, a lot of times you hinge the bottom, like you bring the bottom in towards you. You're not pushing the top down. Makes sense. So I gotta undo all of these and fix them up. So, and as you can see, this is almost full. Eventually, I'd probably kick these out to a different drawer. And these things back here are actually so that spring-withing ones like this guy, springy, right? They go in this way, the opposite way. And the tip goes in here and it actually hinges. It keeps them closed enough so they actually, move these out of the way, so it'll actually close. Kind of cool. You can fit the smaller Knipex, you know, like my limited, I just have my limited editions here for now. You know, like this will fit in there because you have to thread the gap because there's also this top bar, right? I may end up, because most of my Knipex are probably going to be the bigger or the medium style comfort grip handle. I may end up chopping these out. Now I know I will need more space right away, so this drawer will probably just get the wider stuff first, and then I can deal with later on if I need even more room. Then in here, eventually these, instead of being like a battery drawer and that has nut drivers and Allen keys, these probably will end up being pliers as well, I have to imagine, as Knipex keeps on expanding their Knipex Extend pliers line. This height is perfect for that. To be truthful, I can probably get the nut drivers, and I may even do that right now, into the top drawer because I stole this drawer from my, that was my random crap drawer. So I have it out, this is like a kilowatt. I got my stud finder, horrible stud finder, but it's worked, so I still haven't replaced it. I got some butane torches, my electric pencil, replacement razor blades, hobby files. You know, it's kind of just like a random stuff that didn't have buddies to go with. So maybe we'll like, and realistically, these don't need a proper drawer. These are just hose clamp pliers that cut off the hose. You cinch them down. I've got more stuff like this as well, that I've yet to put away that's in the other room. And I don't know if that needs like a proper drawer per se. Over here, these screwdrivers can probably use a skinnier drawer. Where's that guy? I don't know. But this is kind of like pencils, rulers, a really cheap caliper. I should probably get a nicer caliper. This is pretty good with the thin drawers. It's like, it's odd. Like, I need more thin drawers, but at the same time, I need more these guys, like this, too. Yeah, this is pretty well filled out. I am missing pause drive, so I don't know what I'm going to do there, because I guess I could turn this 90 degrees, maybe. Let's see. We'll get a little bit more room. I just keep those desiccant packets. Yep, we can do that. Okay. So now we've just gained a little bit more room there. I don't know if that's enough. The other thing we can do is, because we're losing so much height up here, right? We can flip the pliers or the screwdrivers kind of like that. Or they go boop, 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 boop. But this is at least a better fit going this way. Even though you got to kind of look at an angle now. See, that's where you play the game of okay, so now you got to read it at an angle. Do you want to read it right, Or do we want to put it on this side and ring it left? You know, stuff like that. But thought I'd give you guys an update on if you're like screaming at my 2-hour video about all the Knipex Extend pliers came in like, oh, you're putting the tether on the wrong side. Yep, I realized that as today I went to go put them away and I'm like, that does not make sense. Look up the picture of their existing non-Knipex Extend tethered and it's on the top part of the pliers. Yep, I'm a dum-dum. Well, let me get this kind of cleaned up a little bit more. We'll do some hopscotch, some stuff around. Like here, normally these would go in a random spot too. Highly recommend them. At least these two. I don't like the bigger Fiskars utility knives. And I didn't think I'd... Yeah. Drop the utility knife right on your foot. Prof. Oh, probably gotta replace that blade. But I didn't think I would like this small one, but I keep going back to it. This could even be an everyday carry. I mean, compared to what some people carry though, I mean, heck, this guy could be an everyday carry. And you're like, why do you need something this big? Well, if you're actually breaking down cardboard or cutting things like carpet, you want like a nicer, bigger, like that locks in to your hand there. Fits in there perfect. I also wanted ones compatible with the Fiskars ones, and turns out the Fiskars knives are precisely designed to work with the Fiskars blades, and they are why it has that stupid hole in because of this slider, that insert there. Some of the bigger, like they have paint. I'm sure, like they actually have one made for painters that has like a thing on the end for you to knock down stuff, and they have some with like a screwdriver. Like I have other tools for that. I think if you were in a specific trade, some of their bigger, because they have some bigger knives and even some ones that don't have a easily removable blade and stuff like that. I'm sure depending on what you're doing, those might be better for you. But if you guys are just looking for a nice folding utility knife and don't need it to retract, these Fiskars ones are super nice. But I wanna find like a, you know, if you see my tape measures kind of go like that. I've got a small thing here that has a cheap ball peen, my magnesium Fat Max. I think Bitwit Kyle has one of those. Just kind of sitting there. I got my 17-ounce Milwaukee framing hammer. Lighter weight, but longer handle, kind of hanging off like that. I need to find a place where I can keep these, you know, kind of snapped on and readily maybe back there like that. Otherwise, you're gonna get something that snaps on the side, that's magnetic, like that they go down into. Oh, that's where this guy went. I was wondering where. Eventually, probably all these will be in here, but for now, all my magnetic trays are in here. So, questions, comments, throw them down below. Let me know how you guys sort yourself. Oh yeah, by the way, get yourself one of these. I don't have the brand up. See, now you guys wonder why I'm good at catching things. I'm clumsy as. I upgraded these. I got these Milwaukee lights free. I was supposed to get one. They sent two. I've almost never used them, but they did get upgraded to LED. This is like $5 to get them a better bulb. If you got some older Milwaukee M12 batteries that maybe don't work well for your tools, throw in the flashlights. You know, that's gotta get cleaned out. That's god awful. Oh god. Need to get these marked up like my other batteries. I got them from something. The tape I used there, I bought new tape, as you can see here. New painter's tape. Because I used old masking tape, and well, guys, there's a reason why that blue tape got invented. Masking tape left all that shmoo behind, and I gotta clean it off. These are actually for taps, so you can put a tap on a ratchet and use the ratchet as a handle, or you can use like a T-die, you know, like anything that has this is a 3/8 inch drive, yeah. And sometimes I'll even just use, like, once the tap is in here, I can use, because when you retap it, you just need something to hold onto the tap, and that's big enough to even do by hand. This guy just didn't get painted the first time. Eventually I'm gonna actually engrave all my stuff too. I got one of those up there, so we're getting there. We're getting there. I really need to make this proper too. There should be another board that fell. I don't know where that ever went. If you guys know what I should put up here, let me know. Eventually all my hammers, there's going to be pegboard, top of bench to ceiling, all the way over. And the hammers will probably go on there. Just so you can grab them, because what can happen when you move this around is they're kind of stable. You can see what the mini Thor hammer is doing. I need a drawer for all of this stuff too, the lighters and you're like, why don't you put another one of these on here? My head is, my neck's only here probably, so that I tried actually before, because I was going to order before Craftsman went out of business, because these were actually going to like really cheap when the Craftsman like wholesale places were closing up. I was going to order another one, because that's where actually those two came from. Originally it was just this and that on there. So I tried that guy on top of there, and I can't see in the top drawer or even two drawers. So also, if we're gonna put stuff on top, like you can see where the top of that is, we're getting pretty close to where things hang down from the ceiling. If you want stuff sticking up like that, that's another option, is eventually get the hammers in the top of there, so at least like they're in it a little bit, so they're not all blah 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 blah. Do you guys know of like a hammer thing I can hang on the side? Let me know. Throw it down below in the comments. I've got the full set from Milwaukee and the drilling hammer, so it's 6 hammers. 7 if you include the drilling one. Random cheap classic ball peen I put some friction tape on. It's seen its use. And this guy. Use this guy all the time. Really like it. Having a lighter hammer is actually super nice. Lighter with more leverage. It's kind of... This one is not available in Home Depot stores, but you can order it online, and it regularly goes out of stock. So I don't know if they just don't make many of it, or it is like a stealth. People like it, because a lot of people want the, oh, I want the 21 ounce, I want the 24 ounce, I want the... Yeah, let's put it this way. There's a reason why they make titanium hammers. Alright, well, I gotta get cracking. Also rewiring my OT lights. For some of you that have these, or maybe your mother's girlfriends, grandparents, significant others have this button goes bad back here. So we're just going to tape that in, tape that over, and I'm going to add a foot switch. My next idea was, instead of having to wrap it up like this, I'm going to, like your vacuum cleaner, add 2 points back here, boom, boom, so that when you're done with it, you can actually wrap the cord for the light up behind the thing, because a lot of these we move around as needed. There's one in my bedroom that I rarely, if ever, move, but these two, which are the older ones, and I think my mom has one too that she regularly moves around. There's one that's by her couch, and then otherwise, you know, where she does a lot of her stuff, and otherwise it doesn't move. But the other ones move all the time. So rather than having this and, you know, figuring that out, if I can make like the like your vacuum cleaner on the back where you got the 2 hooks and you wrap it around it, that'd be super nice.